Yes, sir. To park in Blackheath, so yes.
You're going to have at least 100 cars. You're going to provide extra parking.
We've done a traffic management study for a number of Blue Mountains towns, and they've indicated that weekend traffic is a problem in most towns. Certainly is in Springwood, there certainly is in Blackheath, and as people come into town. But during the weekday, parking in Blackheath is deemed to be surplus parking. That policy today on the council website. I urge you all to have a look.
He's never been.
Yeah.
Someone who gets their funding deemed
This is covered by the 1991 LEP, correct?
That's correct.
Is that LEP currently under review?
It will be.
The review's commenced, but it's probably 2 to 3 years before we're looking at proposals.
2 to 3 years before we're looking at proposals.
So they're trying to bring it in line with 2005 LEP?
That's correct. One plan will cover the whole Blue Mountains in terms of land zoning.
Okay, so this 1991 LEP has been identified as not being in line with the 2005 LEP or current changes in legislation.
No, 1991 LEP was constructed to deal with outlying land outside of town centres and also land between towns. This land was part of that because of its location. And even though it was quite a green document, they still indicated that this should be used for housing.
All right, well,
Yeah, sorry.
If we have further questions after this meeting, can you maybe ask the people at the front desk to respond to our email?
Yeah.
And our written letters.
And written letters.
Because we're not really getting any reply, we're just getting a document sent back that has this information in already.
Which is why we have seen it.
Right, okay. We've received a lot of correspondence, and yes, certainly not every councillor is able to reply to every letter.
Not
even
one
myself.
councillor.
Well, that's to yourself, man. That's to yourself. But a number of councillors. Chris.
I did respond to everybody that's emailed me, so I take funds to that. I respond to everybody.
I wrote an essay.
And no, we can just say that we attempt to respond to as many people as possible. All emails though, all issues have been forwarded to staff for their assessment to answer, and they've done that for a very large number of people, as I've been informed. Sir, and then ma'am.
A couple of things. First of all, I'm a real estate agent, so I may or may not have things I was thinking Apple Road. My points are, one point just kind of like parking. If these studies go through and these 45 houses built, there will be about another 60 to 80 cars in Blackheath.
At least.
You do not have parking on a weekday for a quarter of that.
That presupposes that everybody will come into town at the one time. Experience is not what happens. The experience, I'm sorry. Nobody would be suggesting, would they, that all 45 houses would send cars into the centre of Blackheath at one particular moment. That doesn't happen. Sorry, sir?
I had a shop in Blackheath. I
Yep.
know what the parking situation is.
Sure.
The second point is, from my point of view, having lived here for 21 years, it was inevitable that something was going to happen here. However, I wonder whether the council has taken into consideration their own plans for population, ageing and so forth, and considered other uses of this land, like sensitively designed retirement.
The other one, like, it'd be a rezoning. Yeah, it would be. It'd also be more dense. It'd be more dense, and hence the evacuation requirements for people who are not mobile, etc. You wouldn't typically, our strategy that's been adopted in the Blue Mountains through LEP 2005. Stand up, please. I'll get the microphone. You will. Yeah, you'll remember in 2002, 2005, Council adopted a strategy for seniors housing. Blue Mountains, as you know, is bushfire prone, and the primary aim has been to locate that housing within a walkable catchment of all the centres. Blackheath was one of those centres where, if anything, through the public process, the locations for retirement houses or seniors living was actually contracted or reduced. Council, under LEP 91 areas, that form of housing is prohibited. We have had a number of court cases. I've been involved in some of those where you need double the bushfire separation distances when you're dealing with people who need to be evacuated and aided to leave a site. It's not a site where you contemplate seeing this housing. One, it's illegal now, it's prohibited. And certainly, has been indicated this land's been identified for 30 years for low density housing. When we see the residential bushland conservation zone, it's typically for your detached residential housing. And the idea of consolidating the two lots is to work towards maintaining that bushland setting. So, retirement villages just wouldn't be appropriate in that location.
My first point was that area of Apple Road is probably the most significant area in terms of heritage in Blackheath. There's some extremely old houses there, all particular. I'm wondering what effect this development may have on those people who own those houses. Despite what you're saying about councils adding more restrictions on the type of housing perhaps you can have, I think there'll be a significant effect on some of those houses values on the other side of the road, the inappropriate houses built there. Could not the council have thought about this a little bit more, and perhaps gone ahead with this idea of having 1,300 square metre block, which is a good idea, but have a buffer zone perhaps between Castle Road and the development. So, something a little bit more
Off street.
rather than just straight houses in the road.
With respect, Hatfield Road is a residential street. I'm not sure hiding the houses behind trees is the appropriate way to go. Certainly, with the land zoning, with the urban management that we have, you can be confident the houses that will be built will be in keeping with that streetscape.
The council, however long ago, it purchased land, instead of having a roll apart every tall property, they had green corridors between 1st, 2nd, 3rd and 4th Street, all the way down. Why couldn't that be undertaken here as well? That was done 50 years ago. Surely that's probably less progressive than you guys know.
I would argue with you, sir, that this is an entirely sensible, sensitive and sustainable development in terms of bushfire management.
If that could be done in post-land, why can't it be done now? I ask, it's a rhetorical question. The answer is we're trying to get as much value out of this site as you possibly can. And don't try and pretend that consolidating two blocks or making two blocks into one is actually a great thing. It's actually required by your own.
Correct.
You could not be more wrong, sir, but I'll let you explain.
You won't get away with it.
Okay, with the existing lots, the cadastre that we have, the actual subdivision, every land in the Blue Mountains, every parcel of land which is owned for residential purposes has the ability to lodge a development application for a dwelling. Every lot your houses are located on has what some people call a dwelling entitlement. You're able to build on the land. Each one of these parcels has that dwelling entitlement. You could have 90 houses on these parcels of land.
You wouldn't get it.
No, on any parcel of land, if you think any time in the Blue Mountains, you can look at the aerial photographs, there are houses on these residential blocks. When there's an 8 lot per hectare notation, which we have here, what that means is if I had a large parcel of land, say it was a hectare, that you could subdivide it so there are 8 lots per hectare if you were subdividing the land. Now in this case, there's no subdivision. The subdivision is already in place. The 8 lot per hectare comes out at 8 lots per hectare, which is 1,250 square metres on average per lot. So what you're doing here is, by consolidating the lots, you're getting the size of lot that was contemplated as if this was being subdivided, but it's not being subdivided. So each one of the parcels can be built on, subject to development consent. The idea of going to the consolidation is to achieve the sort of outcome that was contemplated or looked for in these residential bushland conservation zones. So it's quite important to make that distinction. This is not a subdivision. They can all be built on, but they're being consolidated to get an outcome on the bushland or urban bushland interface, where you can get larger lots, where you can have more areas for trees, etc., within that residential setting. So I just want to make that point. Thank
To
you.
avoid food conflict.